7 years ago.
Welcome to Politics and Punchlines. Facts, opinions, and everything in between. Welcome to Politics and Punchlines. I am one of your hosts, Jacob.
I'm the other one, Casey. My whole fucking life, I've been the other one.
The other one. You'll stay the other one. Your Diet Coke.
I am Diet Dr. Pepper.
That's fine. Everybody seems to be on a Dr. Pepper kicker recently. It seems to be the most popular soda in the area. That, at least the area. I've heard it is snuck up right behind Coke and kicked Pepsi out of the number 2 spot. So it's become rather popular in the last 5-10 years.
And what people don't know about Dr. Pepper, by the way, this is the Dr. Pepper podcast. What people don't know about Dr. Pepper is that while Pepsi is who brings Dr. Pepper into most stores, Dr. Pepper is owned by Snapple, which is weird.
That is weird because I thought it was its own thing. All right. Well, it kind of is its own. Anyway, that's not important.
Spicy cherry soda, it's its own thing.
Right. What is important, though, and what I would like to discuss this week is the insanity that we call politics in the United States of America. It's insane for Democrats. It's insane for Republicans. Everybody has a view on how everything should be run, and everybody's wrong. But the hottest topic right now is Donald Trump and his cabinet picks. He was just elected last week, week before, last week. I don't remember. It's been a year since. I've had surgery since then. I don't know what's going on. So, we'll get into talking about Trump and his stuff. We'll start off the podcast by saying I am more on the liberal side of politics. I lean that way out of the kindness of my heart. And I have some right-leaning ideas. I don't hate guns. I think there needs to be some work done in that field to help, kind of keep kids away from them, but nobody wants to have that conversation, so I guess I'll keep talking about it in my echo chamber. And then how are you leaning these days, Casey?
So me personally, I'm a little bit towards the middle, although I have registered now as a Republican. Neoliberalism has really pushed me over to the dark side of the force, and if I'm just going to be honest, I believe there is a difference between pre-Nixon and post-Nixon Republicans, and I feel like I lean more towards the pre-Nixon Republican idea where it's less government, less taxes, let the states make the decisions, kind of things like that.
And we'll argue about this later.
Well, certain things need to be federally done, but there are just certain issues that, let's let the states decide what they want to do. And if you don't like that, whatever your state has passed, fucking vote better. That's just what it comes to. Vote better. Or move to a state that does have the shit that you like.
I don't know, because, if we leave it up to states' rights, and this is where I have an issue with states' rights, is a lot of states are full of fucking idiots. And I mean that with the most disrespect possible. It is, and it shows every election cycle. There are states that are completely voting against their best interests. So, and I don't mean that if you vote Republican, you're voting against your best interest, but there are people that will go up and talk shit and it make no sense. And Trump is one of those people, and I will stand on that, does not want to take care of people, and you can tell by his cabinet picks, and people are just rolling around like fucking excited and elated about this. So states' rights lead to, and the Civil War was a big states' rights issue. But what was the states' right at the time that they were arguing for? Slavery. Those same people still exist. Those same people still want to control other people's lives. So I don't agree with states' rights when it comes to taking away fundamental rights of people. And I don't think that should be legal at all. I think the big government should step in and say, hey, fuck you. You don't get a say on this.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But there are just certain things that shouldn't be up to the states. I do agree with that. Marriage equality definitely doesn't need to be a state issue. I mean, there are certain things that we definitely don't need to be, we don't need to be discussing on a state level when they're everybody's problem.
Right.
But you have certain states who have different issues than other states. I mean, we're in Kentucky. We don't have border issues. So why would we follow federal, border immigration laws when we don't have borders with other countries?
Well, we know for a fact that there are illegal aliens in Kentucky. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they make it to Kentucky. I mean, just because, especially when you have such a egregious crossing of the border like we've been having. And hence why there's so many people on the right arguing for mass deportation. But I don't think mass deportation is the way to do it. It's not going to it's going to be more detrimental to our economy than people expect it to be.
Well, and see, here's the thing about that is mass deportation that's going to cost $300 billion. No, not a great idea.
Well,
however,
not only that, but it's going to create jobs that are not going to stay. Like, you're going to have all these employees that you need, and then out of nowhere, it's going to drop off because you've already got rid of the problem, right?
Exactly.
So all that money has to go into those employees, into getting rid of said immigrants, getting rid of all these issues, and then now you have this job that hasn't. You have all these people that don't have a job to do, right?
Right.
That's going to cause the issue.
Well, I mean, but see, on the other end of this, I used to be a guy who was like, no borders, man. Borders are man's creation and blah, 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 blah. Let's be fucking honest here. The right has a weird view about how they feel about, immigration and things, but the left is doing some real shady shit when it comes to illegal immigration. And that's just factual. And that's why I had to lay it down to somebody at work the other day. I was like, let's say I'm running for president and I allow 100,000 illegal immigrants into the country, knowing that they're illegal, giving them temporary amnesty, sending them into swing states. Mm-hmm. And then after, a few years of giving them, welfare, food stamps, all these things like this, free health care, I give them all the things they think that they're coming here for in the first place.
Right.
And then right before election time, I give them the right to vote. Who are they going to vote for? I wonder what the answer to that question would be. You know what I mean? Like, so the liberals, well, everybody said our liberals are fucking stupid. No, they're not. They're incredibly intelligent. It's just they're as big a cocksuckers as the conservatives are. And it's high time this country understand that the puppet on the left and the puppet on the right are controlled with the same strings. Like, we need to understand these things. We need to understand that neither side is correct at the moment. And then also, because of just the way that the zeitgeist is going, there's a lot of dangerous shit being said. And I think I've gone a little bit off topic because I've gone on a tangerine. But tangerines are my favorite fruit, so I'm going to keep doing that. That's the point of this podcast. We need to put to rest some of this discourse, Like, I have so many friends that will not speak to me right now because they are mad at me that I didn't vote for Kamala Harris.
I think when the issue, and I see what they're saying, and I've seen a lot of them, and this is across the board. A lot of liberals have said, "I'm not communicating with anybody that voted for Trump." So, and they're cutting off family, they're cutting off friends, and I understand the issue if you're because I see what they're saying. Their rights are at stake here when it comes to LGBTQ rights. When it comes to stuff like that, they're really at like you're trying to fuck my whole life over because of something some fairy tale book that you don't even adhere to fully. Like you don't even follow the fucking rules. So why do you expect me to when I don't even follow the same religion?
Well, and like I understand some of these things. My thing about it is that I feel like 8 years ago we heard all this same bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're not gonna let the gays be married anymore. Gays are still getting married in fucking in massive numbers. Oh, the trans people aren't gonna have rights. The only thing that I'm seeing that the trans people are losing here is that we're not going to give your children puberty blockers.
That's not the only thing, and that's one thing. When it comes to underage kids and shit, like everybody's opinion is everybody's opinion on that. I don't believe, like I wouldn't allow my underage child to make a life altering decision until they're of age.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But
me and Chelsea had this conversation several times. If Sam or Miles here, since it's Chelsea gave birth to Miles, if Miles were to come in this house at 14 years old and say, Mom, Dad, I think that I'm a girl. I don't think I'm a boy. I'm going to say, okay, and we're going to discuss this, and we're going to talk about this. However, what we are not going to do is pump your body full of hormones.
Right.
Because to be honest, at 14 years old, you can barely make the decision of what you want to fucking eat for the day.
Right. Well, I've had the conversation with Aaliyah because Aaliyah has said stuff along those lines, and now she doesn't feel that way. So I'm glad we didn't just jump in and say, "Hey, yeah, you're a boy now." You know what I mean? Instead, what I did was I sat down and I had a conversation with her. I said, "Hey, you need to make sure this is something you want. Wait it out. When you're old enough to make that decision legally, you can make that decision." I said, but you need to think about all the pros and cons of what you're thinking about. Is this something you feel on the inside, or is it just a spur of the moment? I'm in kind of feeling it right now. I was like, because the persecution you'll go through alone is enough that people hurt themselves. And if you already have negative thoughts in your head about how you feel, that's not going to add any positivity to it, And I was like, I laid out all the pros and cons, and I laid out all the thoughts and all the things. And we support you, who you are. We love you, no matter what you choose. But make sure you think about this before this is a choice you make.
And another thing like that, I just want to touch on that, just because I've been speaking to my therapist about this, because she and I have been discussing about how I do not believe that I'm from this planet.
Right.
And because I don't understand certain things that people do. Now, that could be the tism.
I believe that.
It does go to a level of, like, I really don't understand why we do things. And then she said, so, and it was right before Election Day. Like, my appointment was Election Day. It's the last time we talked about it. She said, do you think the fact that everybody's going to vote today is weird? And I was like, no, I understand what we're doing. This is leftover monkey shit. Whoever has the most bananas gets to talk, kind of thing.
Right.
I said, what bothers me is the divisiveness. And then I started going into that.
I agree with that.
And she was like, well, what's something that, you struggle with, that you feel like it puts stress on you? And I was like, trans rights. And she goes, okay. Like, at that point, she was like, oh, what the fuck is this guy going to say?
Right.
Because I definitely look like somebody who wears a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that I look like I'm way more conservative than I am. But And I was said, well, I said, I keep hearing, about trans suicide rates.
Mm-hmm.
She says, okay. I said, in your professional opinion, do you believe that gender dysphoria exists, that it is a mental illness, and this isn't, yeah, I said, essentially, do you think this is real? And she was like, well, see, this comes in two parts. She said, I am all for people being who they want to be. And I was like, right. She said, however, as a medical professional, I have to tell you that anytime you are questioning your identity, it's not great. It's not great at all. So if you are a male thinking you are a female, you are in a spot that is not great. I said, okay, so these people say, well, I was born male, but I'm actually a female, or I was born female, but I feel like a male.
Mm-hmm.
And becoming a male, becoming a female will solve my problems. Then why are post-transition suicides so fucking prevalent?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was not your issue. What your issue is you needed to go see a therapist. You needed to talk about childhood trauma. You needed to get chemically balanced. And then we can discuss things.
Right.
If you have a mental health record a mile long and you tell me that this is the thing that's going to help you, it's not. This is just something else for you to cling on to. Now, do I believe that you should live as you would like to live? Yes, I do. As a true Republican, as I like to call it, I think that you should be able to live the way you want to live, free from government intervention. However, when you force me to live in your world, that is where we have problems.
Well, can't you say, and this is just playing devil's advocate here, it's the same for when autistic people walk around, right? We have to live in your world. We have to make sure that we're kind of mindful of autistic people when we're out and about in society.
That didn't really bother me.
It doesn't bother you, but other people have a hard time going into public. Other people have and they have to mask. And that mask is a heavy thing to wear. So when you're masking who you really are, and this goes for anybody, especially neurodivergent people, autism being especially prevalent in this field, and this is something I discussed with my therapist, it is super heavy to wear that mask. It exhausts you. So when you get home at night, you're wore the fuck out just from having to be around people and having to be something you're not, right? And
I've taken that mask off.
I know you have, and that's why people look at you like you're an asshole.
And I'm fine. See, then I get to have this thing where they're like, you're such a fucking prick. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm on the spectrum. And they immediately like, oh, okay, well, that explains a lot. Well, then I'm not an asshole. On the spectrum. You know what I mean?
Hold on, because that's kind of a dick move on top of being a dick. Is you're like, all right, I'm a piece of shit, but now you're a piece of shit. Ha ha.
Well, it's my thing. Like, you're judging me, so let me flip that around on you and explain to you why that's not a good idea. I have stopped masking. I mean, I've 100% stopped masking. I say and do what I want. This is a sentence, a real sentence said to me at work the other day. My general manager was telling another assistant manager who's on the same level with me that the original plan when I got hired was she was not going to be our store manager because she was running another store. The original plan of hiring me was I was to be the store manager. She said, so they gave me a month or two and just kind of let me see what was going on. She said, then he got comfortable and I saw the real Casey and we decided that I was going to stay here. And I looked at her for a minute and I said, I have run more successful businesses than this. I was like, I just want to put that out there. I was like, second, because I'm goofy and silly and fun, I can't run a store. She said, no. She said, that's not what I'm saying. She said, what I'm saying is that you asked somebody to do something because they asked you what they could do. Their response to you was, I thought that was someone else's job. And then your response was, well, do whatever the fuck you want then. And you walked away from them. I said, yes, because I'm tired of holding in what I actually think. I was like, I'm getting tired. I said, my entire life, you motherfuckers. And then she was like, me? I said, hey, people like you. I said, you motherfuckers, my entire life have tried to put this mask on me and put me in this box that I'm supposed to pretend like I'm a regular person. I'm not. I don't have a filter. I say what comes to my mind. If you don't like that, suck my dick. That should be the way we all think. So when it comes to this issue,
that's why we have rules and standards in society.
We can definitely appeal to rules and standards, but I'm getting sick and tired of being vilified because I say something.
Well, I had this epiphany the other day, and I've always been loose-lipped and able to say whatever the fuck I want when I want to, right? I don't really. I like to step on toes, and I don't mince words, right?
Yeah.
So I was standing in line at the pharmacy, waiting to go up and get my medicine, and somebody stepped off in front of me and went up in front of me. And it pissed me off so bad. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I said, it just kind of came to, this is why we have, we have rules in society, and they're not mandated, they're not laws, you know what I mean? But they're rules in society, right? And the reason we have these fucking rules is so I don't choke the fuck out of some old cunt who stepped in front of me in this goddamn line. So,
right. My response to him is always, I know you're in a hurry because you're going to fucking die soon.
Yeah.
But, we live in a society.
Right. I'm going to die soon, too. I mean, maybe not, but maybe. You know what I mean? We don't know. Nobody fucking knows. It could be my time before it's a 90-year-old person's time. You know what I mean?
I could die in the middle of this podcast.
Right. Try not to, because you have a baby. You have a baby with you. It wouldn't be good for the baby, you know? But
he thinks it's funny.
I think we've digressed enough. We can jump into this week's hot topic of Trump's administration. And
all this talk about autism really, really segues into it because he's put an openly autistic man in the cabinet.
Yeah. I have thoughts about that too.
So explain to me. You're gonna have to explain to me this Elon Musk hate.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through everything, and what I pulled up was from Australia News. So they have no skin in the game, right? It's an Australian news source. They said billionaires, Fox News personalities, and staunch loyalists. These are the people President-elect Donald Trump has so far chosen to run the United States as a part of his incoming 2025 administration. There's some other shit they go on and talk about, different changes, etc., etc. There's 4,000 government positions with political appointees that he has to appoint. About 1,200 of those require Senate confirmation, etc., right? So I'm going to start at the top of the list and we'll work our way down. We have Vice President J.D. Vance. We know the J.D. stands for Jermaine Dupri. And
my J stands for jerking dicks. Because I'm going to be honest, I am not a J.D. Vance fan. He is a liar. He is a charlatan.
100%.
His book and subsequent film, The Hillbilly Elegy, is false, almost top to bottom.
Yeah. And that's fine. If you want to write a book, but don't claim it's your life when you ain't got, when you don't live that life.
Your mom isn't Amy Adams, and your grandma's not Glenn Close, you lying sack of shit.
So, my biggest issue is, he claims, all these illegal immigrants are bringing drugs across the border. My mom's addicted to drugs. Your mom got prescription pills, bitch. Shut the fuck up.
Yes, and my biggest thing is he's like, I'm from Kentucky. You're from Ohio, bitch.
Yeah.
You better shut the fuck up. Don't claim my state,
right.
You smoky-eyed fuck. Although I will tell you.
What's with the guy liner? I have a pink beard, and I paint my left fucking hand, my fingernails on my left hand. I don't get the eyeliner on a staunch conservative.
I don't think he's wearing eyeliner. I think that's just his eyes.
Oh.
But my thing with JD Vance, he did seem likable while he was on Theo Von's podcast.
Oh.
He had qualities of dudes I kick it with. Just like, if not, first of all, not being offended at talking to somebody who's not taking the conversation seriously, which is definitely what Theo Von's motif is. He's taking it seriously, but like...
He has a way of spinning something, and this is what I love about the way comedians handle things. And if you ever watch a comedian talking to somebody about a serious topic, you'll get a lot of seriousness in there, but it's mixed in with the comedy still. They're not going to stop making jokes, whether it's against at your expense or against at somebody else's expense. A comedian's going to get a joke in.
Right. Like JD Vance said, I had a very minor surgery, very minor, and they he was talking about being prescribed OxyContin. Mm-hmm. Which he was saying is a very crazy drug to prescribe to people. And I'll tell you right now, it is. I used to eat handfuls of oxys a day and, just walk around the world fucking thinking I was all fine and dandy, and everybody else was like, this guy's a fucking mess. But I'm like, ooh, I'm having a good time. But he was saying, they gave me a prescription. They gave me 30 pills for something that I would get over in 3 days. And Theo goes, damn, got any left? Like that, and JD stopped what he was doing. He laughed, and he was like, but seriously, this is a major problem. He is 100% right. Yeah. This is a major problem. So I'm okay with the fact that he's in there. First of all, he's not 90 years old.
But my biggest issue, and to stay on that topic just a hair longer, if you want to do something about pharmaceutical companies prescribing these narcotics in mass, do something about it.
Correct. Do something about it, which is what I'm hoping.
It's not likely that a conservative party is going to interfere in a big company doing what big companies do.
It's unlikely. However, being somebody who I've been on both sides of the fence that JD Vance is on, as of you, having parents who struggled with substance abuse issues and it therefore affecting you in the long run, what I'm hoping is that JD Vance's humanity takes over. And he says, because that answers a few questions here. If the Republicans really care about the children, if they really care about the people of this country, they will take this supermajority and they will say, no longer will we allow companies to poison our people with heroin and meth. Mm-hmm. And these synthetic versions of these drugs that we are so glad-handedly giving people. My 7-year-old son, your nephew, was prescribed Adderall as the first medication given to him.
Right.
To try to control some of his tendencies to just kind of act out.
Now I'll say, for me, Adderall was a great drug to be on. And I'm not talking abusing it. It actually helped me focus, and I learned a lot in the time period that I had been on Adderall. But like everything else, it can be abused super easy. And when you're starting somebody off really young on it, like I was 16, 17 when I was on it. So when you're a little older, it's still hard to fight that urge to want to do it more and more and more and more if you get on that scale of doing it like that.
Right.
But it's so difficult when you have, here is a solution, right? But the solution comes with so many problems.
Yes.
Right. And so it's hard. Like, you don't want to just dish out the solution, quote unquote, if it has, like, the opioid epidemic is almost 100% because of the medical field.
Yes, I mean there's a very good docuseries. I say docuseries. It's dramatized, but it's pretty accurate about the family who created OxyContin.
Right. I know what you're speaking of. Yeah.
And they could not have done the work they did without doctors with loose morals.
Exactly.
I used to work for one, come to find out. A doctor that I worked for.
Yeah. You worked for him in a different light, not a medical field.
Not in the medical field, because I'm not qualified for that.
Hell no.
No, I tell Chelsea all the time, like, she makes more money than I do, and she's like, well, why don't you go find a job that makes as much money as I do? I said, because my skill set is limited. I made bad decisions when I was 16. I'm sorry. And it ruined my whole life. The school was right. I should have listened. But, this doctor I worked for, he was responsible for, just blindly signing off on prescriptions, and somebody died because of it.
Yeah.
They overdosed. They were very clearly abusing the medication.
Mm-hmm.
To access. I mean, if you're abusing medication, you're already using it in access. But like, these people were using it to an insane level of abuse.
Right.
And they ended up overdosing and dying of it. And what happened to this guy? They slapped him on the wrist and they said, now we're going to be watching your paperwork. Don't you do it again.
Right.
However, somebody like Jack Kevorkian loses his medical license and is called a murderer because a terminal patient said, please put me out of my fucking misery.
You can argue on euthanasia all day.
I am pro-assisted suicide.
I understand. And
mega pro-assisted suicide.
I think I understand that viewpoint. I understand I can't do this anymore. The element that has taken over my body is too much. I completely get that sentiment. But I understand why that's a very hot topic as well. To move on, though, we have National Security Advisor Michael Waltz.
All right, so I don't know a lot about Michael Waltz.
He's a former Green Beret and Florida congressman. Is he the
one they're calling border czar?
Maybe. He previously called for Europe to do more to support Ukraine, and for the U.S. to pull back its own support in the fight against Russian invasion. The 50-year-old was a member of the Armed Forces and Intelligence and Foreign Affairs Committees, and served as a counterterrorism advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney.
Going hunting with the Cheneys, not a good idea.
Yeah, his wife Julie Nishawat. I'm not 100% how to pronounce that.
Yeah, just Julie.
Julie, and was Mr. Trump's Homeland Security advisor during his first administration. He has also been outspoken in his opposition to the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. We have immigration. We have Tom Homan in charge of that. Now, I know a little. I know Tom Homan. They put him in charge of this mass deportation idea that they want to get across. Yeah, he's going to be the new border czar, according to Trump. Don't
like the verbology, I'm not going to lie.
Right. He was the acting director of ICE, which is the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, right? During Trump's first term, serving from January 17 to June of 18, because, working for Trump, you get fired pretty fucking quick or you quit.
Trump. I mean, that's where I like Trump, is he says, I want the best guy for the job. He hires who he thinks the best guy for the job is.
We'll get to that.
They're not the best guy for the job, so get the fuck out of there.
Calm that shit down.
I just think it's a positive thing.
So if you're for the immigration mass deportation and stuff, this is the guy you want. He wakes up jerking off thinking about taking a bunch of illegals across the border, right?
Kids in cages.
Yes.
Kids in cages.
Yeah, he's 100% for. We have the new Secretary of State going to be Marco Rubio.
Okay.
And
Marco Rubio.
he's qualified. He's qualified for the job. It's not.
Yeah, he lived in Florida under him.
Right, and it sucked. Florida has sucked so hard, and I mean this with my whole chest. Florida sucks at so much shit.
Yes.
And they keep electing these god awful politicians. I'm not a Marco Rubio fan. I don't think I ever can be, but I do understand that he is more centralist kind of Republican. And he might be a sane voice in Trump's ear.
And he's somebody who, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I do not like Marco Rubio. I don't think we would kick it and have a beer.
No.
However, when it comes down to common sense laws, this guy's he's got his finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
You know, I call him a true Republican.
Right. He's got, and that, like I said, I don't agree with his politics, but I think he'll be more of a sane voice in the ear of Trump in this time period when he has a bunch of loonies and daffies in his cabinet.
That's how I felt about Linda McMahon in the previous one. That Linda McMahon was the voice of reason and things like that when it came to being in Trump's ear, at least about business. Being like, hey, small businesses, you're used to running a big business. Let me tell you about small businesses for a minute. She was somebody who was sane, which having the last name McMahon and being called sane usually aren't two things that go together. Luckily, she just has that name by marriage. So, but she was a very good pick for him. I'm surprised that she's not back in the fold.
So we have extreme MAGA loyalist Kristi Noem. She is South Dakota's governor and has been tapped to lead Homeland Security, the same organization that oversees multiple entities, including Coast Guard and Secret Service. She has been a fierce critic of immigration policy. And in his announcements, Trump said that she would be very strong on border security. As governor, what?
Do you think that it's silly? Because I don't know if a lot of people know this about South Dakota and North Dakota, but South Dakota and North Dakota have a very high indigenous population.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it silly that somebody's like, no, immigration is white?
Yeah, 100%.
Governor of a lot of indigenous people. It's so fucking weird.
It is weird.
They voted for her.
Well, they might not have. Because, and we know this, natives have been taken out en masse the whole history of our country, and that's history that Trump is trying to get rid of and trying to downplay and act like it doesn't exist. So, and we'll get on to this topic here shortly because I am very, very adamant against this goddamn anti-education thing he's on. But so she, as the governor, she sent National Guard troops to the Texas-Mexico border to assist Texas Governor Greg Abbott in policing it. She called the Biden administration's immigration policy willful inaction. So she is big on tightening up the borders. For the CIA director, we have John Ratcliffe. He is the former Texas congressman. He was also the director of national intelligence during Trump's first term. So another Trump loyalist thrown in here. I don't know. Trump said that he called Mr. Ratcliffe a warrior for truth and honesty with the American public. And I have a hard time with what they call truth. And because not everything they say truth is truth. So we have Pete Hegseth in charge of defense. Pete Hegseth is a Fox News host and veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan wars, as well as a staunch Trump loyalist during his first term. So, a bootlicker. Now, here we're going to get into this new cabinet position that Trump has made up, Department of Government Efficiency, and they're calling it Doge, which seems to be a play on Elon Musk's cryptocurrency Dogecoin, okay? And
yeah.
So, tech billionaire Elon Musk is one of the two members that Trump has appointed. Tech billionaire Elon Musk became one of the most high-profile Trump supporters and MAGA influencers on the campaign trail. Speaking to reporters last month, Mr. Musk, which that sounds weird, I'm not going to say that, said he had a goal of slashing government spending by trillions of dollars.
Yes.
Elon owns Tesla, SpaceX, X, and Neuralink, along with having ownership of and involvement in other companies.
Yes.
The department acronym Doge could be a play on Musk's cryptocurrency Dogecoin, which he regularly promotes. After the announcement, the meme coin spiked in value by 20%, according to CNBC.
Gotta love that stimulation.
Yeah, that seems to be very, 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 like, I don't know.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, and it seems to be a way for these millionaires, Trump and Musk, to fatten their fucking wallets, but we'll get to that later. And then the other member is Vivek Ramaswamy, and I like the last name Ramaswamy. I'm not going to lie.
Ramaswamy, now let me tell you something about Ramaswamy, is he catches a lot of shit for being aligned with the party he is with, but that guy says some things that you just can't deny.
I'll look into that later because I don't have any stats to or for or against. So Ramaswamy, who declared himself a Republican presidential candidate early on in the election race, endorsed Trump on the role in January. On his own campaign trail, he promised to eliminate the FBI and Department of Education along with other agencies. I already don't like it. I don't care about the FBI. I care about the goddamn Department of Education. And
yeah, he's not always right, but
Also, the FBI does a lot of good things. I'm not saying that everything they do is right because there's a lot of fault in that organization. There needs to be an overhaul. There needs to be certain things that are and are not allowed, and they need to be open for everybody to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you have the FBI who helps take down pedophile rings and sex trafficking rings and things of this magnitude and mass murderers and stuff like that, you need entities like that because obviously state level shit does not work fully when things cross state lines. That was our issue with a lot of serial killers back in the day. We didn't have this big overall kind of force that could take care of things across state lines, and it would allow people to get away with shit for so long, right?
And not even state lines, county lines. Ed Kemper just drove to different cities in California and found out that nobody talked to each other.
Exactly, and that's where your issues lie. Anyway, so he also released a draft legal framework he said would allow a U.S. president to eliminate federal agencies at will. Don't like that idea. In 2014, he founded pharmaceutical company Roivant Sciences. Don't like that idea because, once again, how are they going to get rid of pharmaceutical companies if this guy is fucking running a pharmaceutical company? You see where the issue is, where what I was saying earlier. They're not going to get rid of an opioid problem because they are getting paid by the opioid problem. His investment firm, Strive Asset Management, raises about $20 million US from outside investors, including soon-to-be Vice President J.D. Vance, Huh? Okay. So I just tied everything I said together. Environmental Protection Agency will be led by Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin is a former New York congressman. Excuse me. Ran a failed campaign to become the state's governor in 2022. He previously voted to protect one of Long Island's major waterways from sediment dumping, but also voted to end clean air legislation. So I really don't know what he's standing on here again.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things.
But
I mean,
he's going to be in charge of the EPA, and he is a climate denier. I do know that. He's a climate change denier. So how are you going to protect the environment and not have a say, a good idea of what that entails? Because you don't believe.
the EPA does a lot more than just focus on the holes in our atmosphere.
No, I know that, but they also have to look at things and regulate what we put out into the atmosphere, what we're allowed to put into the waterways, what we're allowed to put in landfill. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't believe that climate change is real, then you don't give a fuck about dumping chemicals in goddamn waterways.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. The Republican Party doesn't really have a lot of respect for the EPA
at all. I know that. You know that. And I think everybody knows that.
And, you know, they've been talking about let's defund it, let's do this, let's do that. Well, Trump's put somebody in charge of it, so we're very clearly not defunding this thing. It's just let's hope that they do something.
Yeah. We have a UN ambassador, Elise Stefanik. I don't know much about her. Elise Stefanik is a chair of the House Republican Conference, a position that makes her the fourth most senior Republican in the House. The New York Congresswoman has been one of Mr. Trump's staunchest defenders, but has little foreign policy experience, which I'd heard about this. This isn't a great pick for UN ambassador, but that from, an outside looking in kind of thing. Announcing his pick.
I think the UN's a fucking joke to begin with. So
they help some things. They don't do shit on other things. I mean, it's kind of I think there's a need for it, but also not a need for it. It's one of those. In times of war, the UN does what they need to do. They hold people accountable, I guess. But if we learn to hold ourselves accountable, you don't have to fucking need that. Anyway. We have Chief of State Susie Wiles, which, from what I've heard, this is a good pick. While I don't agree with her politics because she's a Trump supporter, she does seem to be more of a level head.
Yes.
And that's good for a chief of staff. Susie Wiles was the president-elect's campaign co-manager in 2021 onwards, and will be the first female White House chief of staff. So that's something, Miss Wiles is a veteran Florida political advisor who helped Governor Ron DeSantis win his first term, and who, according to the Washington Post, convinced Mr. Trump he could mount a political comeback. Announcing her role, Mr. Trump labeled her tough, smart, innovative, and universally admired and respected. So, hopefully, she won't, be too egregious. It doesn't seem like a job that you can really do poorly if she has that kind of background. You know what I mean? As long as she does her job, I don't see an issue. We have Deputy Secretary of Staff, which is a nepotism pick, I believe, Stephen Miller. And we know...
Also a nepotism pick, I believe.
That's what I'm saying. He's definitely a nepotism pick. He's the deputy chief of staff. If I'm not mistaken, which looking at that guy, hell,
it's not about attraction for them. It's about DNA and money.
Exactly. I get that because you can tell by looking at Trump, none of his wives could have been. Anyway, that aside, every trash can has its lid, right? Stephen Miller has been one of Trump's top immigration advisors during the campaign and was his lead speechwriter during his first term. God damn, I would not have admitted that. When President Joe Biden was elected, Miller started an adversary group called America First Legal and contributed to Project 2025, which here is where we're starting to get into people who were in Project 2025 being in his cabinet, right? Everybody was talking, well, he doesn't have anything to do with Project 2025, but he's electing the people who do. And those people are in his ear talking to him about what is good and what's bad.
Now, but I also want to clear up a misconception that people have about this whole, Trump's going to follow every piece of 2025. Plan 2025. Well, I do want to mention that he has mentioned specific things about 2025, so there are some things in here that make a lot of sense, and there are some things in here that are just downright abysmal. So, I want to go to the first Trump presidency, discuss this fact here. A similar team put together a similar plan for Donald Trump to take over the White House, a plan that had several things in it that were not good. Trump only enacted 46% of the policies.
Right.
So I just want to be clear that Trump is not going to come in. I'm just going to be honest. Project 2025 will not come to pass. There are just things in that are too inconvenient for Trump to do. And also one of these things about 2025, I want to tell you just how dumb people on both sides of the fence are, and this is where you really get to see it. I saw a Facebook post the other day. Somebody goes, I'm so scared right now. Project 2025 says everyone's going to have to take a military entrance exam. And I immediately commented, I said, do you mean the ASVAB test? And they were like, yes, that is so frightening that we're all going to have to take it. And I'm sitting here like...
We already had to take it. I understand that.
We took this in high school. Well, come to find out, only certain states do it.
Oh, okay.
And Kentucky is not one of those states.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, we took it in Alabama. And
yeah, we took it, and I Christmas treed it, and fucking... and they were like, you be a goddamn surgeon, son. You got an IQ of 190. So, I just want to be clear.
Well, I remember when I took it, I got a lot of phone calls. You know what I mean? And I was like...
Yeah.
It's not for me. You don't want a guy like me in there.
We had people come into the school, the Navy, the Army, the Marines, the Air Force. They were like, can we talk to you, son? And I was like, no, not really.
No, not at all. And that's the way I was with them. I was like, to be 100% honest, I'm not the guy you're looking for. I don't have. And they're like, we can whip you into shape. And I was like, yeah, I don't like that idea. I've gone through too much shit in my life that I don't need somebody else yelling at me, making me feel inferior to, whatever fucking issue is at hand at the moment,
My thing is like there's nothing you can say to me that my father hasn't said 6 inches from my face.
Right.
So no, you're not helping me.
Right. And they're like, well, we can get you out of here, and you're like, well, that's intriguing, but I can get me out of here, and I did. I fucked off and did my own thing.
Yeah, that was, and so. But my point is, they were just like, I'm so worried. Bitch, you wouldn't be worried if you'd fucking read a little bit and stop taking everything you see on Facebook as fact. Like, but yet they want to sit here and be like, oh, fucking, okay, boomer, getting all your news from Facebook, but you're getting it all from Instagram. You're no different.
It's very similar in that aspect.
I get my news from the most reliable source out there, Jon Stewart. That's where I get my news. Because Jon Stewart just did a 20-minute segment on what the Democrats did wrong. And they were like, we have all these picks in place. All the things you're reading, the Democrats already had these people picked out 6 months before the election.
Right.
They're like, we have chiefs of staff. We have, I mean, they had everything down to comptrollers picked. And so he was like, okay, so I got all the chiefs of staff picked. I've got judges picked. I've got this picked. I brought this. I brought that. Did anyone bring the voters? Fuck, what do you mean we didn't bring the voters? It was your job to bring the voters. No, it was your job to bring the voters. Where are the fucking voters?
I think that could be a whole episode we do here in the future where we talk about the inadequacies of the Democratic Party and how the failure happened, and not looking at it from a pundit standpoint, you know, because the pundits are always going to say the same thing. We need to take a long look at what we did and da-da-da-da-da, and then they don't change shit, you know what I mean?
You know what they're saying now, and this is what's hilarious to me. Liberal pundits are saying, maybe we should stop focusing on so many woke issues and start focusing on the problems the country's having.
You think?
Let's stop worrying about, people transitioning and worry more about people transitioning food onto their families' tables.
Right. I think some of those ideas would be better. So I'm going to skip the last one because I want to the second to last one, and I'm going to go to the last one, and then I'll go back to the one before. Middle East envoy is Stephen Witkoff. Stephen Witkoff is a real estate executive and was playing golf with Trump and other friends during his second apparent assassination attempt earlier this year. He also testified as an expert witness during Trump's civil fraud trial. Steve is a highly respected leader in business and philanthropy, who has made every project community and he has been involved with stronger and more prosperous, Trump said in his announcement. Steve will be an unrelenting voice for peace and make us all proud. He's a real estate executive doing Middle East envoy work. I don't know how that's going to be positive. I don't know how it could be negative. I mean, there's pros and cons, I guess, we could chop up, but... And the ambassador to Israel is not Candace Owens.
It's not.
She got mad about that. She tweeted, "How was I overlooked for ambassador to Israel?" They gave it to Mike Huckabee. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee would be the first non-Jewish person to hold the position of U.S. ambassador to Israel since 2011. So, okay. And
follows of Huckabee, yes?
Huckabee is a Baptist minister and political commentator who has hosted his own talk show, first on the Fox News channel and then on TBN, the Trinity Broadcast Network, for more than a decade. Huckabee...
You're leaving something out about Huckabee. Hell of a bass player.
All right. Huckabee has criticized President Joe Biden for pressuring Israel to moderate its conduct of the Gaza war and has opposed the current Democratic administration's calls for a ceasefire there. So,
I mean, it does seem really weird not having a Jew go talk to the Jews.
yeah.
That does seem unusual. It also seems unusual to put somebody in place who believes that all the Jews are going to hell.
Yeah.
That's weird. Hey, you know the place you guys don't believe in? We're all fucking going there. Eat some bacon, motherfucker. Like, that's essentially what he said to them. But I'm going to be 100% honest with you, man. Like, there is so much anti-Semitism being spread around this country from honestly both sides that it doesn't surprise me.
No, the anti-Semitism has gotten very out of hand recently. I think a lot of, and this is where Trump emboldens these people to come out and step out and say these hateful things. And that's where I have probably one of my biggest issues with him and the Republican Party is how not every Republican's a racist, but every racist is a Republican. You know what I mean? They tout and dog whistle these people's thoughts, and then now I got the whole KKK behind me. I got the whole Nazi movement behind me. I got and you get these people standing behind them. They're not going to come out and say, "Ooh, look what I got," but look what they got. You know what I mean?
But I'm also going to just point out to you that I'm getting tired of watching a bunch of green-haired, septum-pierced white girls talk for black people. That's just as fucking racist to me.
I don't know if it's just as racist, but I do get the idea of, and this is the way it's always been. You're going to get, for any movement in this country, and this is kind of a sad point, you have to have these white people who back that movement. And if white people don't back that movement, then the movement gets killed. And it's kind of awful that we can't allow people to speak for themselves without having some savior, quote unquote, come in and champion what needs to be done, right? In the civil rights movement, what happened before you had all these white people come in and say, hey, we're backing this. You know what I mean? Sadly, they were beaten and dogs sicked on them and sprayed with water hoses and they lynched and all the most extreme things you can do to somebody for saying, hey, I just want equality.
Well, it's just... Hold on, let me hit my vape. My issue mainly with this is every person of color that I have spoken to on a political level they've all shared one thing in common. I'll be like, so who are you going to vote for? Are you voting Kamala or are you voting Trump? And they all make the joke, Trump has, 3 baby mamas, he got shot at twice, he's honorary black. Like, I've always heard that joke, and it does make me laugh. But, most of them say, well, which one's going to put money in my pocket? And then I have to answer truthfully. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Democrats' problem for 90% of the issues we have, their solution is let's raise those taxes. Because when they use it as like, we're going to raise taxes on the rich. Well, taxes have been raised on the rich twice under Obama, and guess who started paying more taxes as well? Me. I ain't fucking rich. I went from paying 12% to 15%. And when you're poor, that's a lot of money. My taxes are paid off. Like, what I owe the government is paid off 6 months into the year. So if we're going to be honest, blacks and Latinos and other minority groups who are worried about who's going to put the most money in my pocket, you vote red. I mean, that's just what it is.
That's
red
not
means
true.
That
is vehemently not true. You can look at stats throughout economics for every presidency, and we hurt more late term and after for Republicans than we do with Democrats. We hurt worse. We've gone into a recession because of Bush's fucking economic fucking plan. And he was given the best economy, not Trump's economy, the best economy we've ever seen.
But what you're not paying attention to, most people on the left don't pay attention to on that issue, is he was handed the best economy while NAFTA was beginning to take hold. NAFTA tanked our economy, not George Bush. George Bush just so happened to be too dumb to fix it. It could have been stopped. That's Bush's problem. Bush could have stopped this. He did not. Bill Clinton bent this country over and raped us, just like he did that lady in the 70s, to lose his lawyer's license. he bent us over and raped us with NAFTA. Another afternoon fucking that ass. That's what it stands for. I'm going to take Carhartt, who my stepmother worked for Carhartt, so I have a little bit of an insight into this. We talked about this a lot before she died. She worked for Carhartt. They're lucrative. They're a very lucrative company. And the factory that she worked at was doing incredibly well. But NAFTA's rules said that Carhartt factory needed to be sent down to Mexico. She was given her walking papers, and then they said, we'll help you find another job. Now, she did credit Carhartt for helping her get her pharmacy tech license because she was a pharmacy tech when she died. She was very knowledgeable in that area as well. That company did help her achieve that, help her pay some of the costs of getting that taken care of. However, she made more money working for Carhartt than she did as a pharmacy technician. So I do want to be very clear that the Democrats do not always have the best ideas. It's a situation of what Lewis Black said a long time ago. Republicans are stupid and Democrats are dumb. Democrats are the party of bad ideas, and the Republicans are the party of no ideas. Democrats sit around and they say, I have an idea, and Republicans say, and I can make it shittier. That's just a simple fact. Fact of the matter is, Bush was handed a booming economy that was about to completely tank on itself. It didn't matter if Al Gore became president or not. The economy was going to tank itself. It was inevitable. Every financial advisor in the world will tell you that these things are inevitable. They happen. It's just what can we do to soften the blow? So hopefully, we are on an economic decline right now. The Democrats are bragging about inflation being 2.4%. That is insane. 2.4%. I mean, I'm not going to sit here. This isn't an economics podcast. I'm just saying 2.4% isn't fucking good.
Right.
But you're like, well, at least it's not 2.6 like when we took over. You mean in 4 years you only dropped at 0.2?
I think you got to look at Obama's economy. You have to look at, most of the time, Democrats pull us out of these hard times.
This time, I believe it'll be a little bit different.
I don't see how, because Trump, at the end of his term, started declining on all these fronts, right? How is he going to better something when he did not better it last time?
Well, that's like asking, okay, you're about to bake a cake.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the last cake that you baked was kind of dry. So I don't trust you to make a cake this time. Well, see, I'm going to add an extra cup of oil into the mix so it doesn't stick to the pan and it stays moist. Yeah, but, you have a history.
But he hasn't said any of that. He hasn't given us new ideas. He's only reiterated past ideas and concepts of ideas. You know what I mean? So where is this actually going to benefit us that we reelected somebody who did nothing? Just like he's done with his own businesses, nothing.
Well, see, that's a weird stance for me because people constantly talk about, well, Trump's went into bankruptcy 4 times, and he's a billionaire again. So he did something right. He knows how to make money.
Not really. If he was a good businessman, the money his daddy gave him would be up here, not here, where basically it's just coasted over time.
Well, his father gave him a loan of $5 million, and then he turned it into a multi-billion-dollar industry. What I'm saying is that he knows how to make money.
Do you mean basically the same company that he took over his dad already had in place? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. But hold on. I'm not saying he's a good businessman. What I'm saying is he knows how to make money, but he's also like a big dumb dog that doesn't know when to stop eating. So he doesn't know how to keep it. That's the problem. He's made several bad investments.
Mm-hmm.
That happens, but see,
Several is extremely downplaying all his failed endeavors, right?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of failed endeavors. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that there's not. I mean, Trump University, Trump Steaks. I mean, several things are terrible. But what Trump does is, or what he should do, what I'm hoping to see him do economically, is him be able to say, "Hey, listen, I know how to make money. I don't do a good job of keeping the money, so." I want to see him, let's make the money, and then let's have somebody in place to tell him, okay, this is how we keep the money. First thing first, I mean, Elon Musk has a great idea. That's where I'm going to come back to something I asked a while ago. I need to understand the Elon Musk hate. I don't understand it. 5 years ago, we were like, Elon Musk put a car in orbit. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, this guy is doing stuff for commercial space travel." Like,
I've never been a Musk dick rider. You know what I mean? Never. I've never been on the side. I don't like the way he treats his child. I don't like.
That's awful. Yes, that's terrible.
I don't like, and I don't like the way Trump treats his children. As a father, you have to look at that as the most abhorrent behavior possible. For you to put conditions on love for your fucking child.
It's terrible, yes.
I can't look at my children and be like, because you do X, Y, and Z that I don't agree with, we're not fam no more, cuz. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not family.
So, I don't see myself walking in and disagreeing with my child and cutting them off. You know what I mean? So, I find that behavior abhorrent. I find the way that they talk to and about American citizens abhorrent. I don't agree with how you can sit and say the enemy within about any and everybody that disagrees with you. I don't like that fact. We are American citizens. We are countrymen. We need to find common ground to stand on, not find more division to put between us. And this is something Bernie Sanders said back in the early 2000s, right? He said, if you look at the Republican model, it is to take poor Americans and make them squabble over issues, right? Issues that shouldn't even be political, but we politicize them. And now we have poor whites fighting against poor black people. We have we have gay rights versus traditional. You know what I mean? It's not something that should be politicized. Everybody should have the same right to wake up, do their fucking day. If they want to get married, get married. If they want to have kids. Anything outside of that idea, you don't support true freedom. You don't support. You want a dictatorship where your rules and ideas are the rule, right?
Yeah, but you see, again, this goes back to the vocal minority. I mean, the vocal minority is who is speaking right now. The same people on the right the same kind of people on the right are being like, we don't want fucking trans people and gay people are weird, bunch of queers, blah, 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 whatever they say, right? Then you got the vocal minority on the left that are sitting there being like, we didn't assign our child a gender at birth. We decided we would let them decide on their own. That's exactly, you have extremisms on both ends of the spectrum, and that's what people are seeing, that when you really come down to it, and you really get to the soup and nuts of America, shout out Mark Norman, Soup and Nuts was a great special. When you really get down to what it is of Americans, they don't care about this shit. Don't tell my children. Like, I just saw a teacher online telling children they don't have to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, or they stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. They don't have to stand. They can say the words. They don't have to say the words. Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But then she tells the children that she doesn't have an American flag in her classroom because she lost it. And they're like, well, if we're doing Pledge Allegiance to the flag, then we've got to be able to pledge allegiance to a flag. And she goes, well, I have a flag you can pledge allegiance to, and spins around. It's a fucking pride flag.
I've never seen this.
Oh no! You can find it's on all over my Instagram reels right now.
I understand. I've never seen this. I've never heard of a teacher doing this type of thing.
Well, these are also in neoliberal cities and neoliberal counties. This isn't, this isn't middle America, USA. This is happening, and this is happening in places like Portland and Sacramento and New York City, cities like this, huge cities that seem to lean on a liberal stance. If Sam came to my house on the weekend and said, my teacher took our American flag down and replaced it with a pride flag for us to pledge allegiance to, I would then call that school and say, what the fuck are you doing?
I don't know. I was one of those kids in high school that did not stand up and say the pledge. And I was ridiculed and talked down to by our ag teacher because I had him for homeroom. While sitting in his class, he would berate me every day. Why won't you do it? Because I don't believe, and this is early 2000s, I don't believe there's liberty and justice for all. So I'm not going to tout some fucking pledge to this flag when I don't believe in what it represents anymore. It does not represent what you're saying it represents. I'm not pledging an oath of fealty to something that sits there and denigrates its people.
I'm not going to pledge an oath of fealty to any inanimate object.
That's accurate too. But
I mean, that's just...
And he was like, you're just fucking lazy. And it's not about being lazy. I don't want to fucking do it. I have morals and standards. You fuck.
Isn't that a wild stance to take? The fat kid doesn't want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance because he's fat?
I wasn't fat. I was chubby. I was pleasantly plump.
Yes, but
now I'm fat. I'm fat as fuck now. Back then, I was like sexy chubby. You know what I'm talking about? I had a little belly on me. I was a snack.
I'm just really glad you didn't say slim thick. I was going to lose my mind.
All right, we've gone overtime. So let's wrap and we'll convene on part two, if you will. So, when this, as we've discussed, I appreciate the conversation and I love you, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye, everybody.
You lizards come!